All right, we're live, and it's Wednesday. It's our real talk on real estate. Just finished leaving a job site and running around, taking care of a little business today. We've been hot on the road, promoting our Build Wealth Summit event in November, on November 3rd and 4th in Las Vegas. But today, what I want to talk to you guys about is something entirely different. I've been talking a lot about multifamily and buying land, building houses, and some people are going, Jerome, is it safer just to build a fourplex right now? And my answer to that is yes and no. So a fourplex, I want to give you guys 5 tips today. I'm going to give you guys 5 tips on how to build a fourplex that will actually help make it profitable and actually help it make it an extremely viable project. Okay, now this is cool because for those of you guys who have never really built before, or those of you guys who are in the single family build a single family build place where you've been building like 1 home at a time or 5 homes in a year, or are wanting and aspiring to get into the single family home space, but then also desiring to scale into multifamily, the fourplex area is a place where you can actually get some great training and get paid while you learn. Now, personally, I would not stay in the fourplex sector for a long period of time. And the reason why is because after you do 1 fourplex, one thing that you're going to learn is that doing 1 fourplex is just as complicated as doing a 10plex or a 20plex. But there's a reason for it. And I'm going to go over some attributes to a fourplex right now, because for some of you guys that are just getting started and you're sitting back going, Jerome, if I can crush $100,000 profit on every unit, then that's what I prefer doing. And so one of the things that I wanted to go over with you guys today is how to take advantage of that and how to get financing, and why would anybody build a fourplex? So here's the thing. A fourplex is a residential dwelling. Okay, so until you get into 5 units or greater, it becomes a commercial asset. So if it's your first time building a multi-unit development, and let's say that you're leveraged financially in regards to like credit, or you don't have a resume to go out and do a 10-unit apartment complex or 20-unit apartment complex, and you're sitting back going, Jerome, I want to get into the multifamily space, but I don't know how. And I don't even know if a bank will lend me money because I don't have the experience I need to be able to go out there and actually qualify for the loan to do like a 10 or 20 or 30 or a 50 unit apartment build. But a fourplex, almost anybody can get a loan for because it's considered a residential build. Now, there's 2 ways that you can qualify for the loan, okay? One is what's called an owner build. And an owner build on a fourplex is when the owner actually occupies one of the 4 units in the actual fourplex. And the loan is easier to get and typically a lower bearing interest rate on a mortgage because you actually live in and reside in the fourplex. So now it becomes a primary residence for you. And when it's a primary residence, you can get a traditional residential single family mortgage like you would any single family home, which is really cool because you can still go in and qualify that as your single family primary residence, and you can even go in and write that off on capital gains if you live in it for 2 years, okay, as your primary residence. So that's pretty cool. Now, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, so one thing that I recommend you guys do is that to make sure you qualify for the tax benefits correctly, contact your local accountant or CPA to help you do that and position yourself to take advantage of that tax write-off correctly, okay? Now, lending. Second way is that if you go in and you actually don't want to occupy the unit, you're happy where you live, but you want to do it as a fourplex, what's really cool is you can go in and you can actually get an investment loan. Now, you are going to do it just like anybody else doing a commercial loan, but you can typically do it at about a 70% loan to cost, and you can do it as a single family. You can do it as a single family residential loan, but it's more of an investment loan. So that's the second way you can do it. Now, as we lead into this, listen to this, okay? This is what makes fourplexes right now safe in this current market. Because right now, one of the big things is, hey, Dean, why did you take out your message, bro? I was just about to read those suckers and you took them back, which is fine, but I'm happy to answer some of those questions you might have. Anyways, one of the big things for single family residential, and I teach this to my inner circle. We had a gentleman the other day that actually came in and he had an 8-unit build. It's not a 4-unit, it's an 8-unit. But the same thing constitutes for a 4-unit as an 8-unit, especially in today's market. So let's say, for example, you're having a hard time. Let's say you're having a hard time getting financing for 4 units, or let's say you're having a hard time getting financing for 8 units. And let's say that the reason that you're having a hard time is you've never built anything before. And you sit back and you're going, Jerome, I need to be able to palette how to be able to go in and actually get the financing on this. Now, I'll tell you guys, if you haven't even found a project, you shouldn't be worrying about financing right now. I always tell people, financing is like the 5th step in the sequence of events, and most people think it's the first one. They sit back and go, Jerome, I can't go build a 4-plex or a 6-plex or an 8-plex because the bank told me that I can't qualify for it. And I said, why are you even talking to a bank? You shouldn't even be talking to a bank right now. First, you find a project, you tie up the land, and then once you've tied up the land, you go start talking to an architect and a civil engineer and a surveyor, those 3 trades, and you put a real tangible project together. Once you have that, then you go talk to the bank. But until then, you shouldn't even be talking to a lender, okay? Now, once you have a viable project, the lender is now going to entertain conversation on this. And what I like about 4-plexes and 6-plexes is that you can do it based on your own risk tolerance. So instead of going in and maybe, let's say, for example, you're scared to do 4 units all at one time. Well, you can get a loan to do 1 unit at a time, or you can do a duplex and do 2 duplexes instead of doing a full 4-plex. And you can even do it more like townhomes, where you could actually, you guys could have seen townhomes where the partition wall between gets papered and lathed and it gets waterproofed, but then until the second home comes up to connect to it and there's 2 walls put together, that one stays the way it is. So you could do a duplex here and then attach another duplex to make it a quad down the road. So if the bank doesn't lend on it, you might be able to get a loan doing a duplex and do it as an owner build, live in one of the duplexes, rent the other one, or sell it. Which brings me to the next benefit of doing a 4-plex, and another thing that you can do when you resell the asset if you decide to do so, okay? So you can get individual financing per unit, or you can get financing for a duplex or a quad, and you can do the project in phases. So if it's easier for you to pallet, let's say a duplex, where the duplex might cost you $200,000 per unit to build, it might cost you $400,000 for an entire duplex. And instead of getting, it costs you $800,000 to do 4, you do the 2, and then you sell the 2, and then you do the other 2. Or you build the 2, you rent the 2, then you build the other 2. Okay? Now, what I love about that in this market right now is the banks, once you have income, they are more forgiving on what's happening out in the real world. Like all this garbage, this craziness of high interest rates, inflation, and everything else that's happening in the world right now. Now, you could get easier lending. Okay, now, if you're sophisticated, you have a resume, just do the 4-plex right away. In fact, if you are sophisticated in this market sector and you have a resume that you've been doing multiple homes in multiple units per year, then I would say do a minimum of 8 units. And here's why. Now, if you decide to keep a 4-plex, one thing that I learned about 4-plexes in 2009, when I first started buying them in Phoenix, first time I'd ever bought 4-plexes, is that unless you have a portfolio of them and you only have 1 4-plex, typically at any given time, you have a revolution of potentially having 1 unit vacant, okay? When you have a conglomeration of 4-plexes, now your threshold of vacancies actually goes down, okay? And the problem is that 1 4-plex typically is what it takes to be able to run and stabilize the monthly debt service and maintenance on that actual 4-plex, okay? Meaning that only 2 units bear you capital to be able to finance the debt on that. And so if the 2 units finance the debt, the other unit's vacant, and the other unit is what's servicing the maintenance, like property taxes, water bills, electrical bills, whatever it might be. I would let the tenant pay the electric. Then you're making 0 money. And when you make zero money, what scares me is that I have more of a liability than I do have an asset, okay? That's why I don't like fourplexes. So here's the second thing. You can keep it or you can sell them off. Now there's two ways to sell these off, okay? Here's your fifth tip, guys. This is your number 5, okay? This is what I like best about all of the fourplex deal right here, okay? Is that when you do a fourplex, you can parcel them if you do them like condo style, or you do them like condominium style. You can go in and do them like a duplex, do a condo, a condo, a condo, a condo. So it's not just like the old school fourplexes where it looks like one block building and then there's 4 partition walls, you know, 2 partition walls in between the 4 units. Then it just looks awkward, right? And so you can just do them where they're actually set up as individual single family residences. And for all intended purposes, when you build them, you permit each of the 4 units individually, not as one parcel. Now, when you do that, what ends up happening is you'll have 4 property tax bills, but the assessments will be similar. And with multifamily, the way it's gone up over the course of time, you can assess your fourplex 2 different ways for resale purposes. Now, this has happened with Airbnb over the years, and it's become a lot more popular. So some of you guys might be familiar with this, but haven't even thought about this for resale purposes. So I would want to sell a fourplex. A fourplex isn't an asset class that I would want to keep. It's just too small because I have to self-manage it. It's a great place to start, great place to learn, but then it's a great place to scale out of really quick so that way you can get into making real money long term, okay? And once you get there, you'll know what I mean. Right now, you're just sitting back going, Jerome, well, shit, I don't have any passive income. Having 4 units of passive income is like a home run, especially if I rent them each for $2,500 a month. That's $10,000 a year in revenue. And if the debt only costs me, let's say $6,000, I'm making $4,000 a month in revenue. Yes, theoretically, but let's say, for example, you want to scale out and scale up. So you want to scale out of it, but then scale up into something bigger. Wouldn't you want the largest ROI possible? I would. I would want the largest return on investment possible on any asset I sell, because then I can turn that capital and invest it into something different, okay? And so here's what's going on. Jay Glizzy, what's up, bro? Jay Dean. It sounds like the sausage, but I love you, man. Okay. L Dean, not J Dean. Thanks for joining in, all of you guys from Sacramento, Cali. So here's the way you assess your resale, okay? Here's what's real cool. Now, if you do it in a fourplex and you do them condo style in a fourplex, you could still build it all as a fourplex and get one loan if that's the loan designation that you want, and you can still finance it and do an owner build if you decide to occupy one of the 4 units. But I would still recommend parceling those units into 4 parcels, having 4 parcel numbers and getting 4 property taxes. And here's why. Because if you do it that way, instead of 1 parcel, 1 property tax, and then just 1 property, then you can't condo them. You always have to sell that property as 4 units. And why would you want to consider selling this property individually? Here's why. Because if you sell this property and you sell it as a single family residence individually, let's say if those single family townhomes are selling for $300,000 per unit. Well, multiply by 4, that's $1.2 million gross return on your asset, and you might be able to make about $400,000 to $500,000 net proceeds. I would say closer to $400,000 if you're selling $300,000 assets, okay? So if by the unit, let's say you're renting these things for like, let's call it $3,000 a month or $2,800 a month, because let's say they're like 3-bedroom, 2-bath units, so they're 3 2s, and you want to be able to go in and resell them on the unit price based on rent rates. Now the bank starts to assess these assets as a commercial investment property, just like Airbnbs. So like we were down, Ty Lopez and I were down in Florida about, before COVID, so at least 4 years ago, and we were looking at a place right in the heart of South Beach. Okay, now When we went in and we got into this asset and we actually started investing in these type of assets, we were looking for short-term rentals because it was hard to get into the hotel space there because the hotels were so damn expensive. So what people had landed up doing, because Airbnb is not approved in South Beach, very few areas, almost none at all, is we were looking at a hotel boutique opportunity where we took like a boutique style hotel and leasing it. But it was basically a single family home, ladies and gentlemen. It's like a single family home. And at one point in time, it was just one home, which was like a 3,000 square foot house. But it was divided into the potential of like this, like 3 or 4 rental units that we could rent out on short-term rental, but really as a quote unquote boutique hotel. And it wasn't called short-term rentals anymore. It was called a boutique hotel for all intended classifications. Now, the house itself, if you comped it against homes, was only worth about $2 million. But when you comped it based on revenue and boutique prices and what it had done in revenue the year prior, it was selling for $3.8 million. So $1.8 million more, almost double the value than it was as a single family residential home. So if you take what a bank likes to take as an income model to appraise the property and utilize the pro forma basis of that asset to secure the loan, that property value goes up exponentially, okay? So if that's the case and the rents push up the value, you could sell it as a fourplex based on the revenue it brings in when you do decide to sell. And that fourplex revenue may bear you a return larger than if you sold them individually as single family dwellings, okay? Now, if rents in that area happen to be low, but housing prices happen to be higher than the rent revenue and what it would bear as in regards to its value on a financial return, then you can also sell them off individually. So if it lands up coming out that that asset's only worth, let's say 1.1 million, but you can comp it out and make like 1.3 million. If you sold them individually, let's say you could sell them for like $325 a piece, then I would sell them individually because you're going to bear an extra $100,000, $200,000 in revenue, in gross revenue, which will end up going to your bottom line in net revenue. And so for resale purposes, you have the option when you build them this way to sell them off in a conglomerate or individually. Now, if you have a loan, the way you pay it back is what you call a breakaway loan. And a breakaway loan, the lender, if you sell per unit, they'll say, okay, you have 4 units, you owe $800,000 total, okay? The rest of the equity is yours. We don't care about the rest of the equity. But to be able to collateralize, meaning take possession of the property and collateralize it so that way if you ever default, they can go in and foreclose on the asset. When you sell the first unit of a fourplex, there's only 3 left. So if the loan was $800,000, they will do a $200,000 partial payment. So at closing, even though you sold it for, let's say, $325,000, $125,000 will go to you on your bottom line and your net out. The other $200,000 will go to service a breakaway loan and payment of $200,000 of the $800,000 on that loan. Now, you'll still owe $600,000 on the other 3 units. If you sell the second of the 3, same thing. Another $200,000 goes to pay off that unit. And then you still owe $400,000 on the other 2 units. And you get to make the rest of the remaining profit. And so the reason that I love being able to do that, and I did this with condos, with office condos back in the day. I wasn't doing it with residential. I was doing it with offices. And you could do the same thing with commercial retail. It's called condoing a building, right? You condo it. So you do office condos where you take an office complex and you sell off the units individually, you condo them. And what I would do back in the day was I would do the same for commercial as you're looking at doing with residential. I just happen to make more money on commercial, so I like it more because it has a larger bear of return. And so what I would do is I would condo out all of the units. And let's say I had a 9-unit complex. If I sold off 2/3 of it, selling off 2/3 would typically bear me the last third clear and free on my loan. So I would pay off all my debt with the first 2/3 of those condos, and then I would own my last 1/3 that I would retain and keep for passive residual income, free and clear. And so that's how I put over 1 million square feet of retail on the books, paid off with zero debt. 1 million square feet, ladies and gentlemen. That means I had like $25 million worth of retail where I owed zero money on it, debt free. And the way I was able to do that is by selling off 2/3 of the asset, retaining 1/3 of the asset, allowing the 2/3 to pay off the debt on the 1/3, and I was able to have be into that with zero debt, zero liability, and positive cash flow right off the bat once I stabilize those assets. Really friggin' cool. And you can also do that with residential. Met you in Dallas when you hosted a free event, and I have to learn how to underwrite. Yes, you do. Everybody needs to learn how to underwrite, and everybody needs to learn how to underwrite cap rates. Look, I'm going to be going over that stuff at the Build Well Summit. Look, guys, you guys, I had 19 of you guys on here. If you guys like the content that I'm going over and I shed any value to you guys, pound that thumbs up button and click and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get notified when we have content just like that. But pound that thumbs up button, ladies and gentlemen. Give us a little bit of love. Let us know you're here, you're alive, you got a heartbeat and a pulse. And that way, every time I come live, our videos are recommended to you. Okay, now but yes, you guys need to be able to go into Dallas. I mean, not Dallas, you guys need to come to Vegas in November. I'm going to do a full underwriting on all of our modules over in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Build Well Summit this year. And I'm going to go through lending. I'm going to go through 4 different asset classes. I'm going to go through 4 different type of lending classes that you need to be paying attention to, and 4 different asset classes. So there's 4 different sectors of real estate you really need to be paying attention to right now. And there's actually 7 different financing methods, 4 of which we're actually utilizing and leveraging right now. We're leveraging 4 different types of financing right now, 4 different asset classes, none of which have the exact same financing on them. Okay, we're utilizing like HUD for one, we're utilizing like Freddie Mac for another, we're utilizing traditional lending for another. I have some private money lending that the University of New Mexico is lending us, and then there's 7 different models, 7, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm going to go over in Las Vegas this year. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to share with you guys the attributes and benefits of owning fourplexes, how to structure them, how to be able to set up financing, and how to go out there and just friggin' crush it with multifamily real estate. If you like this content, click below, give us that thumbs up button. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to recommend a video after this one that we're going to post. Just give us till tomorrow to be able to edit and put this one back up. And right at the end of this, I'm going to show you guys a video that I did with Cody Sperber and how you actually underwrite multifamily real estate from the dirt to the finished constructions, how you stabilize it and understand the true value of real estate and commercial multifamily real estate. You guys go out, make it a great day. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next week on Wednesdays, Real Talk on Real Estate. Thank you all.